Om. Om Yo Brahmanam Vidadhati Purvam Yo Vai Vedaishchu Prahinoti Tasmai Tamhadevamatma Buddhi Prakasham Mumukshurvai Sharanamaham Prapadye. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Katribhyo Vamsha Rishibhyo Mahabhyo Namo Gurubhya Sarvopaplavaritaha Prajnanaganam Pratyagartho Brahmaivahamasmi Brahmaivahamasmi Vedantartha Vibhasakaya Gurave Shantaya Sannyasine Nanavadi Nagendra Sanghapavaye Yogindra Vandyaya Cha Mohadvanta Divakaraya Bhagavat Pada Vidham Vibhrate Tasmai Bhashyate Namostu Satatam Purnaya Bodhatmane. Brahmaham Yat Prasadena Mai Vishwam Prakalpitam Shrimat Swayam Prakashakhyam Pranavami Jagatam Guru Yah Paramatma Jagat Srishtva Pravivesha Punasvayam Tam Krishnam Pratyagatmanam Vande Gopi Manoharam Yasya Prasadad Hamatvayatma Vishwam Samastam Magi Kalpitancha Tan Sarvalokaika Gurum Sadashri Swayam Prakasham Gurumanatosmi Gurunam Charanam Ghosham Pranipatya Nirantaram Tatkripa Dvaita Chinta Kaustubhamarabhe. Talking, explaining to us about what is the Anvaya and Gyatireka, inclusion and exclusion when it comes to understanding the Tat Padartha shown to us by the word Tat. And this process of inclusion and exclusion, meaning Anvaya and Vyatireka, help us to discover the Lakshat, the implied meaning of the word Tat. The journey has yet not finished. We have reached a station from where we still will have to continue further. And it is important that we understand the meaning delivered by these words. Unless and until the meaning delivered by the words does not become clear to us, the meaning that is going to be delivered by the sentence constructed by these words will not be accessible. The sentence is called as Mahavakyam. It is a Vakyam. It is a Pramana Vakyam. The very function of the sentence is to generate knowledge. And by generating knowledge, it means it is going to generate that knowledge, something which was not known before, and something which will continue to remain unknown if this sentence doesn't function, or if this sentence is not available. Though you may hear the sentence, yet in order to understand what is truly delivered by the sentence, we will require to undergo this process of Anvaya and Vyatireka. Of course, it is a part and parcel, integral part of Adhyaropa and Apavad, superimposition and desuperimposition. So the teacher has told us that whether the world is seen as this gross world spread all around, which includes even this construct of body-mind complex. This whole world is the gross world. The various bodies and the entire range of the physical world, then of infinite galaxies, innumerable galaxies, everything is this then, which constitutes the gross world, is panchikrita. It is something which is grossified form of the 5 great elements. How do they grossify has been already discussed. And the consciousness remains as the substratum and also as the illuminator of this gross world. Even before the grossification takes place, the world simply remains as the subtle elements. And when we are saying subtle, it simply means of these 5 elements, the Rajoguna and Tamoguna Amsh. The part of Rajoguna and Tamoguna, the parts which are of Rajoguna and Tamoguna are there. Rajoguna and Sattvaguna are there. Sattvaguna undergoes a transformation to become the various faculties of knowledge, meaning the 5 jnanendriyas and the antakaranam, the inner equipment, which is mana, buddhi, chitta and ahankar. The Rajoguna Amsha undergoes a transformation too, and becomes the karmendriyas and the pranas. So the jnanendriyas, karmendriyas, antakaranam and prana. This is the subtle world. Paramatma remains, consciousness remains as the substratum of this, as well as illumines this world of subtle elements. When these subtle elements, along with their transformations, are absorbed back into the unmanifest which is the Karana Avastha, the causal state, everything is just as if dark abyss. There is no distinction, no nothing that is seen. Not a karmendriya, not jnanendriya, not even antakaranam, pranas, nothing is seen over there. This is the state of deep sleep. Nothing. It is just dark, unmanifest. Everything arises from this unmanifest and goes back to the unmanifest. This, in this Karana Avastha, the subtle body is also not there. And over here also, Paramatma remains as the very substratum, consciousness remains as the substratum, illuminating even the unmanifest. And that's why the sleep is also, the deep sleep is also illuminated by consciousness. But the very important thing about this unmanifest, which is the cause, the total cause of everything, is very interesting because it has the status of just being a superimposition. It is only an appearance and nothing more. And that what is an appearance cannot create duality. Therefore, it is mithya. Thus, this is the bad, this is the vilapana. Now, even the unmanifest has lost its own status of being real. But what remains over here is also just the consciousness alone. And therefore, whether it is the waking experience or the experience of dream or of the deep sleep or of the mukta avastha, the state of enlightenment, liberation, after this body has finished its own course, over there, the consciousness remains alone. Therefore, now we see that there was never ever an absence of consciousness as the substratum, as the support, and also as the illuminator. It remains as the adhishthana as well as the sakshi, the illuminator. This then is the anvaya, the inclusion, because everywhere you see Paramatma is. What is called as Vyatireka? Vyatireka means where before the elements become grossified, the gross world is not there. Paramatma is there. Before these subtle elements come out of the unmanifest, Paramatma is still there. And even when the unmanifest, Avyakta, also loses its status of being real, and finally in the state of liberation, even that is also not there, Paramatma still is. So absence of all this is seen, and presence of Paramatma is never ever challenged, can never be refuted, and therefore that which is always present is the Anvaya of Paramatma, and that which is present sometimes and absent otherwise is the Vyatireka, is exclusion. So by this process of inclusion and exclusion, now we are able to understand that consciousness always remains. Paramatma is never ever absent. The rest of the world, whether it is gross or subtle or even unmanifest, is subject to being absent. This is the Vyatireka. So how does the teacher say over here? Yathokta prakarena samashti sthula sukshma sharira tatkarana mayana. Of all the three, samashti sthula, meaning the total gross, the total subtle, and the total causal, all these three, yathokta avasthasu, in those states which were now explained to you, the state of where before the elements get grossified, the state where the elements are projected, and the state of liberation. In all these three states, the avyakta, the total causal, the total subtle, and the total gross is absent. And therefore, yathokta avasthasu abhanam, they do not become the objects of awareness because they are not there. And therefore, yathokta avasthasu abhanam vyatirekaha tat padarthasya paramatmano bhanam anvayaha. So yathokta avasthasu abhanam, kesham abhanam, trayanam abhanam. Of these three, abhanam, भान का अर्थ होता है उसका ज्ञान, knowing. Now, knowing, just do not think it is an activity of the brain. Knowledge means illumination. Just illumination. Presently, when you know the pot, the brain has a certain function to perform, and therefore you are going to say knowledge is a function of the brain. But what really has happened is the pot has become illumined. Just that the pot was unknown to you before, and now it has become known, meaning it is no longer shrouded under the darkness of ignorance. It is illumined. This illumination is knowledge. The cognitive process of the brain may does become helpful in illumination, but illumination by itself is knowledge. Illumination is not related to the brain process. It is not related to the subtle body. Nevertheless, we will enter into something of this nature in detail in our further analysis. But presently, we can simply understand Anvaya and Vyatireka. Vyatireka of all these three bodies is the abhanam of all these three bodies is called as Vyatireka. And when is the abhanam? Yathokta avasthasu, in those particular states. Presently, the gross world is experienced. But as you are experiencing this gross world, bring to your own understanding that even the very substratum, the existence of all this gross world is supported by consciousness alone, by Paramatma. If this remains as the music behind, as the background music, now the world is seen, whether the world is gross world or the subtle world or even the unmanifest, it does not matter. Parameshwara always remains, is always there. And therefore, now we are going to say this is the Anvaya and the Vyatireka of these three. So what is Anvaya and Vyatireka? Anvaya means Paramatmanu Bhanam is Anvaya, and Trayanam Abhanam is Vyatireka. Natu Anyadrishav. Why not? There is no other method of understanding it. Anyatra dharmad ityadi shrutya paramatmanaha punya punya sambandha anavagamach. What you experience and how you experience, there are two things. Your experience simply constitutes of the, a continuum between these 2 points. Sukham and Dukkham. And everything oscillates in between. There is a continuum. When you go to a nice restaurant and eat the food, you are enjoying it. But after a while, you realize that your stomach has bloated. So though you have enjoyed the food, along with the enjoyment, there is some little, what do they call, discomfort, dukkham, mixture. And when the bill comes and nobody is ready to share, that is even more discomfort. So there is enjoyment as well as there is some little dukkham associated with it. Is not that? So now it is a mixture of sukham and dukkha. Like that, where there is more sukham, less dukkham, you call that as sukham, just because it is more sukha is saturated over there. There where it is more dukkham and less sukham, you call that as dukkha. But how are you going to experience it? And every experience is happening to you only because of your purva karmas. Is not it? Those purva karmas in form of papa and punya, when they fructify, now they bring the experience of joy and sorrow. Every karma that we perform, almost every, cannot be said as to be purely punya or purely pap. It is a mixture of punya and pap. And therefore, even the results that it is going to bring is also a mixture of punya and pap. Whether you experience that joy and sorrow here in this waking world, or whether you experience the joy and sorrow in your dream world, or whether all this is absent in the unmanifest, is only because of papa and punya. If the papa and punya is intense, the experience of it will be had in the waking world. If the papa and punya is there, but it is not intense enough to generate that experience in your waking world, in this gross world, it will give you that experience of sukham and dukkham in your dream world. In your dream world. But over here he says, Anyatra dharma, there is a shruti. It's a very beautiful shruti. We will not get into the discussion over that, but just the principle delivered by it. That shruti now shows us that Paramatma is untouched by papa and punya. The consciousness is untouched by papa and punya. And therefore, anyatra dharmad ityadi shrutya paramatmanaha punya apunya sambandha anavagamacha. The sambandha is not there. And hence, Paramatma is not an object that you are going to say is an object that can be experienced only in the waking world or in the dream, or when dream and ever the waking is absent. No, sir. Paramatma is always present. And what is the state of deep sleep? Is it the result of papa and punya? No. When the quota of papa and punya, one quota of papa and punya have finished giving their result, and you have experienced the joys and sorrows that it had to deliver in the waking world, when you have finished experiencing the joys and sorrows that it had to give even in your subtle world, in your dream world, now that punja, the collection of that papa and punya have finished. Now they are empty shells. And till the next one arises, the next collection arises, the gap between these two, then is the state of deep sleep. That's why in the deep sleep you'd say that neither there was any joy nor was there any dukkham. But really speaking, even in that state of deep sleep, Consciousness, which is pure bliss, still remains. Just remains over there. Okay? So now, Anyatra Dharmadityadi Shrutya Paramatmanaha Punya Punya Sambandha Anavagamach. So Paramatma is not something that is going to come only in your waking or in dream or in deep sleep. No, nothing. He is always present. It is not the result of any punya. Anavagamacha tasmad abhyam. And therefore now he draws the conclusion of this discussion. Now, even when we are going to contemplate this Tattvadartha Shodhanam, the process in which the Tattvadartha is analyzed, please keep every step of this discussion clear in your mind. Give yourself a little time to meditate. And now by meditation, please do not play the gimmicks that I simply want to relax and all those things. That's fine. First few minutes is fine. Now come arrive at this contemplation. What is the meaning of Tat? What is this world which is spread around me? The world of physical elements, the world of the subtle elements, and that where the world of gross and subtle elements is also not there. Everything is as if a deep abyss. What is that? Unmanifest. The ego is not there, the body is not there. The instruments of the ego to experience the gross world is not there. Just deep darkness, that unmanifest. And yet, in all these states, the consciousness illumines the coming and going of all this. What is the Anvaya and what is the Vyatireka over there? And why is Paramatma not subject to coming and going? Because Paramatma is untouched by Punya and Apunya. How did you know that Paramatma is untouched by Punya and Apunya? There is a Shruti to this effect. And that Shruti says, Anyatra dharmad, anyatra adharmad, anyatra asmat krita krita, anyatra bhutach bhavyach, yattat pashyasi tadvada. This is a very beautiful Shruti from the Kathopanishad. And as most of you are aware of the story of Kathopanishad, this young boy who is just 8 years old, Nachiketa, then goes and confronts Yamaraj, the god of death, meaning death himself, Mrityu. He goes and stands in front of Mrityu. He questions death. And death also congratulates him. Says that, I haven't seen anybody like you, Nachiketa. Blessed are you. People are in a hurry to make themselves immortal by going to the heaven. Because going to the heaven means where they are always going to remain young. And they are not going to perish like the mortals, how they perish, becoming old, losing their abilities, the body becoming dilapidated. No, nothing would happen. Simply the day, the time when the punya finishes, which has allowed you to stay in that state in the heaven, when that punya finishes, now that jiva descends down to the mortal world in a mortal body. He did not become old. He did not perish. Like our face death or died, simply comes down, vanishes from there. And they think they are avoiding death. Nachiketa is not avoiding death. Nachiketa is young and he goes and hey, so tender, where boys and girls are still playing with their toys. In fact, playing with the toys never ends. Sometimes you have this spins and kites to play with, dolls and small, what do they call it? The small little, play vessels. The girls, they have this ghar ghar kelte hain. In Marathi, they call it budpuli. I don't know what is it called. If people are not free from that, then they change their toys. When they become young, men want their toys are their girlfriends. And when the girls become young, their, their, their toys are their boyfriends. Toys have changed, but we continue to keep on playing. Then there is the game of power and position, power and position and recognition. You still are playing with different toys. The child, that immaturity never ends. Nachiketa, at that tender age of 8, goes and confronts death and stands and questions him. He asks, tell me that, show me that. Anyatra dharmad, anyatra adharmad. Show me that. Don't talk to me about the results of papa and punya. Do this and you will get that. Avoid this because it will bring you dukkham. Now enough, I have understood that. Anyatra dharmad, anyatra dharmad, anyatra smat yuta. Something that is different from created, uncreated, manifest and unmanifest. Anyatra smat yuta kritat. Anyatra bhutacha bhavyacha. Don't talk to me about the past and future. In people's interest, oh, my past, hey, and my future. He knew my past, he's going to change my future. Past and future, keep that to yourself, that's okay. That is going to happen even without you telling me or even without you doing anything. Is not it? Anyatra bhutacha bhavyach. That what is bhut or bhavya. Bhavya means bhavitum yogyam. Bhutacha bhavyach. Yat tat pashyasi tadvada. Tell me that which you are able to see. Show me that through your words. So by this Shruti, it becomes clear that Paramatma is untouched by Papa and Punya. meaning Paramatma is not a product of Papa and Punya or the gap in between. Manifest and unmanifest is not, don't talk to me about it. Anyatra dharmad, anyatra adharmad, anyatra asmat krita kritat, anyatra bhutacha bhavyacha, yattat pashyasi tadvada. So therefore, now the teacher over here, he says, Anyatra dharmad ityadi shrutya, paramatmanaha punya punya sambandha anavagamacha. Tasmad, therefore, in conclusion about this, abhyam, abhyam means by these two, which two? Anvaya and Gyatireka. By this process of Anvaya and Gyatireka, inclusion and exclusion, Tasmad abhyam, Anvaya Gyatireka abhyam. He makes it clear what is the meaning of abhyam by these two. By inclusion and exclusion, Shodita Tatpadarthaha. Now the Tatpadartha, the meaning of the word Tat, the object shown to you by the word Tat, Shodhita is analyzed and clear. And what have you understood? Maya Tatkaryabhyam Aparabrishta. Now, Akhanda Satchidananda Swarupa Paramatma Tatpadasya Lakshartha iti bhavaha. Maya Tatkarya. Maya meaning the total cause. Tatkaryam, the total subtle and the total gross. Maya Tatkaryabhya, untouched by Maya, Aparamrishtatva. Paramrishta means touched, not contaminated by Maya or the effects of Maya, not contaminated by cause and effect. So, Maya Tatkaryabhyam Aparamrishta. What is it that is Aparamrishta? What is it that is untouched, uncontaminated? So immaculately pure. What is that? It is Akhanda, that which is undivided. Akhanda, partless. Akhanda, Satchidananda, that which is of the nature of existence, illumination, and joy. Now this joy, therefore, is not joy or knowledge, is not something just in your brain. It is just not a cognition. It does gets reflected as cognition, but it is more than that. Something, in fact, different. Satchidananda, that existence itself, which is undivided. The existence which is self-illuminous. The existence which is of the nature of pure joy. That Akhanda Satchidananda Swarupaha. And it is the nature of this existence to be of self-illumination and pure joy, Paramatma, and this is that Paramatma, Parameshwara. Now this understanding of Parameshwara has risen in you as a result of this process of Anvaya and Vyatireka. Every seeker will have to sit and will have to undergo this rigorous process of Anvaya. And don't tell that you cannot do it. Why would you not be able to do it when you are able to experience this gross world, the subtle world, and their absence, which is unmanifest. Why would you not be able to give yourself that time? Make yourself free from the preoccupations of YouTube and TV serials and of the, you know, the movement of the ego. उसने मुझे ये कहा, मैं उसको वो सुनाऊंगा, बस हो गया. What do people think about me? Let them think whatever they have to think. Their thinking does not create you. In fact, even your thinking does not create you. In order to discover that your presence is untouched by thought, that your presence is untouched even by the physical entity or by the subtle elements, is your freedom. But you are so preoccupied into this idea, he said that and she said that, and they think about me like this, and what I will show them one day. All your life is lost only doing this nonsense. When will you come to it? And therefore, in Indian culture, we really had this one provision, which was called as the sannyasa ashram. When you have done all that nonsense game, now at least come. Even at your fag end of life, you are able to do it. You are blessed. That's why there was sannyas. This was the reason, this is the reason why there is the institution of sannyas, where a person is totally committed only to contemplation, meditation, shravana, manana, nididhyasana. People think that they are going to lead a life, a spiritual life, coming to the ashram, and they continue living the same thing. He said that and she said that. Where is your commitment to spirituality? Where is your commitment to discovery of Paramatma? No, nothing. And therefore, all these ashrams also finally end up becoming a hub of politics. You were playing politics at home with friends and in other social circles. Now the same thing here. Just a new name, ashram. And nothing. Just you give it a mulama, just you give it a what do they call? सोने का पानी चढ़ाते हैं, उसको क्या बोलते हैं इंग्लिश में? Hema, what do we call that?
What? Not sure, Swamiji, in English what it is called.
What is it called that, where they, give a little gold plating? No, use that word, plating. And just underneath all that ugly thing is just gold plated on the top. Just make it shiny. Call it holy. Living in ashram, holy. What holy? They're the same thing. And therefore, friends, now here we are. The whole the institution of sannyasi is only meant for this. So anvaya abhyam, so tasmad abhyam anvaya vyatireka shodhita tatpadartho. Shodhita tatpadartha is, how is this shodhita tatpadartha? Maya tatkaryabhyam aparamrishta akhanda satchidananda swarupa paramatma. And that is the lakshar, the implied meaning the meaning of the word tat, which you have reached through the analysis. So this is the laksha, the implied meaning. Now we are going to look at the word tvam and how even in the word tvam, the process of anvaya and yatirek is going to help us to have the clarity, the shodhana karyam, to bring this, understanding to its pure meaning. We will see when we meet next. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnaat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashikritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmiti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinam Taye Namaha. Thank you, friends. Thank you all very much.